This is Call on the Field Stands. I'm Jeff Mapis, here with Ryan Denchef. Got a couple interesting topics tonight, one revolving around MLB and the other around the new league. The XFL got underway this past weekend. So we'll dive into both leagues right now. Got some interesting topics, I think, on the docket regarding both. Ryan, how you doing, man?
What's up, buddy? We missed last week. Nice to get back on the mics here.
Yes.
And talk some sports.
Absolutely.
Going to have some very interesting topics. Obviously, as we've been mentioning with NFL tapering off, we're going to be getting into a lot more MLB. And that starts today with a lot of hot topics coming from, changes in the league and what might come and what is being proposed and all sorts of other crazy nonsense. But yeah, man, I'm doing well. Doing good. Watched a little bit of XFL. Got 6 days off of football. That was not a whole lot, but it was interesting. And obviously we'll get into that in more detail. But how about you? How's your week of not recording? Your week off?
Hectic. Things are crazy at work right now.
Yeah. Same. I'll be traveling next week. Hopefully we can get a podcast recorded somehow, some way. But gets hopefully something out there. But anyways, enough about next week. Let's talk about the now. And first thing I think we got up is, I guess we could probably almost go chronologically with how this different kind of stuff broke. I think the first thing was from a few days ago, a new proposed playoff scenario that the commissioner had mentioned, which I guess might not go into effect, till 2021 or something?
22.
Gotcha. Well, why don't you break down what those proposals are, what he was talking about potentially doing in 2022, and then we'll kind of give our opinions on and break down what that could mean in the grand scheme of the MLB.
So Rob Manfred, wants to expand the playoffs to 7 total teams in each league. And the way it would work is the number 1 seed, so the best record, would get a bye, leaving 6 teams, so 3 games. The number 2 seed, second best record, and they'd have to be a division winner, would get to choose from the technically 3 wildcard teams. They get to choose who they want to play. So number 2 seed gets to choose who they would play in the first round, which would be best of 3. Then the number 3 seed, also a division winner, would get the remaining wildcard team, the worst record between the 2 remaining wildcard teams. And then that 4th seed, so the best wildcard team, if you will, would host the remaining wildcard team. So that first round is best of 3, and the 2 division winners host all 3 games at home, and then the best remaining wildcard team
never mind.
gets to host that series as well. All 3 games is the proposal.
So you'd have 3 3-game series, 2 of which would be with the 2 division leaders or 2 division winners that didn't get the number 1 seed hosting 3 games all at home.
Yes.
Against, the wild cards, but the number 2 would choose which they want to face, basically.
So after number 2, the way I understand it, after the 2 seed picks who they want to play, then the worst of the remaining wild card pool plays the number 3 seed, a division winner, and then the best, the number 4 seed, the best out of the wild card teams remaining would host the other wild card team that's left over.
It's absurd.
It's a lot.
This shit is absurd. So you'd have 4 wild card teams.
Yeah.
And then your division winner, obviously, that had the number 1 seed, would just sit around all day for fucking 2 weeks and do nothing. All right, so I'm just reacting. What's your thoughts? My thought is it's fucking absurd, mainly because, no team is going to want to sit out for that many days. Like we saw it a few years ago. Unfortunately, the Indians lose the 3-1 series against Boston in the ALCS. The winner of that series was to go on to face the Rockies. The Red Sox ended up coming back from 3-1, where the Rockies, in my understanding, my recollection, won their division series or the conference series in a sweep or very close to it, if memory serves. So they advanced to the World Series, and the Indians ALCS lasted forever. And Boston comes back from 3-1, rolls in and sweeps the piss out of the Rockies because they had, I think it was in large part because they sat around for 2 weeks waiting for that series to go. Like, no team wants to sit around and do nothing and have that long gap between playing in the conference series or the, A or LDS or ALCS or NLCS to go to the World Series and just wait around all day. Like, I don't understand what the thought process is. Like, how is it a reward for a number 1 seed to get all that time off?
Yeah, I don't think it is at all. You always hear you want to be, playing in any sport, you want to be playing your best. You want to be peaking, toward the back end of your schedule. And especially in baseball, you want to be hot going into the playoffs. That's when you want your pitchers rolling, batters rolling. What if you finish the year strong, then all of a sudden you're sitting around for 3 to 5 days, however long it takes until they commence the next.
And baseball round is also like so much different than other sport. Like NFL, every team has a bye week anyway, so there's a built-in 2-week gap during the season. So they're used to that planning preparation. In that case, they're also getting the piss beat out of them. So having that elongated break and things like that is a little bit more advantageous. NBA, kind of same thing, where you have built-in multiple days off, which the NBA is kind of weird. Their playoffs are entirely too long.
It's too long.
They should not be having game off day, like, it's insane. But anyways, you have pitchers who are used to pitching every 5 days in a routine of, I pitch every 5th day. Sometimes it's every 6th day if we had a day off, but it's in that window. And all of a sudden, if they end the season, and who knows if they're not even the last pitcher of the season, who's going to start the next game? So what if they're like 3rd to last game of the season they pitch? Now they're waiting through all these series as the number 1 seed. They could have 13 days between starts, which is no pitcher who just went through a 162 game season is going to want to wait almost 2 weeks to pitch in a playoff game.
Yeah,
it's so stupid. I don't understand.
It throws things off.
So what are your thoughts though on the overall idea of expanding and adding teams?
I think it's foolish of the MLB to even consider expanding the playoffs. The one great thing about baseball, in my opinion, from just a common fan, not a diehard baseball fan, the playoffs become really intriguing, actually. Like, their season is so long and the playoffs start really getting built up toward the end of summer, and then all of a sudden they hit and there's excitement about it. There's much more urgency in the playoffs, obviously, where there's a feel that every single pitch counts, every single at bat counts, where you don't really get that out of the regular season, compared to a sport like football, where it's like every freaking game is important if you want to be serious about contending for the playoffs down the stretch. So I think the MLB playoffs are actually perfect.
Maybe
not the playing game is kind of odd. You play 162 games and then you come down to one game to get in. It's a little bit goofy.
I prefer almost what they had before they even had the playing game. Just 3 teams plus 1 wild card. There's your matchups. Go to the playoffs and roll.
Yep, I like that.
But if they want to expand it in that way, I think a 1-game series is stupid.
It doesn't make sense with how long their regular season is. But I love that the divisional round is best of 5. Then it goes to best of 7, then best of 7 for the World Series. I like the format of, once you get past the playing game, you've got that best of 5, best of 7, and then best of 7 again for the World Series. So I think the amount of teams getting in is perfect right now. And if they do expand, I don't like the bye thing.
The bye thing is absurd.
I don't like it.
But yeah, thinking about a little bit more, because I haven't really put too much thought about the whole expansion situation. And same as the 5 games, as I always kind of thought, why have 5 games? Just have 7 in every series. What's the difference? I guess what kind of impact does it have? What advantage or disadvantage would it give to a higher seed? I don't know that there really is any. But that's another intriguing thing about MLB playoffs. Every team, probably just because there's so few games or so few series, every team seems to have a legit shot. You could be a wild card team and win the World Series.
Yeah,
we've seen that plenty of times. So I like the number now is fine. And the one game, like, I guess that's kind of the whole argument too. Like, if you're going to expand it out to 3 games, now there's that layoff between the end of the season and the beginning of the playoffs. How do you work that in? I guess the 1 game is fine. I still just say, fuck the 1 game, but
I do too. But
it does make it a little bit more interesting and give that team that, like, imagine a team making a run towards the end of the season, gets hot, squeaks in that second playoff spot, and they could have a legit shot to win a World Series because they got hot at the right time. Maybe there was an injury earlier in the season that helped, hurt them a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm fine with it, but expanding it just doesn't make sense. And giving a bye is the most absurd idea I think they've ever kind of come up with so far as baseball, and trying to incorporate like some type of incentive. Like, why would that be any? It's like, you would not want the 1 seed. I feel like teams wouldn't want to be the 1 seed if they had a layoff of a bye week.
Yeah,
that's not an advantage.
I don't think I would like it.
Stay in your routine, stay in your rhythm, and play baseball. That's
Yeah. The other thing with expanding is you're just making an already long season that much longer, and it's not like, I haven't heard anyway, and it's kind of difficult to do with northern teams. It's not like you can bump the start of the season up, really. I mean, you're still already on the fringe in cold temperatures for northern teams, when they start in April. Now you're just going to extend the World Series even further, deeper into October and shit. Maybe even, I'm not sure when the World Series typically ends, but it's definitely
November.
Deep October.
It's in November. Almost
okay,
always.
That's what I didn't know if it even encroaches into November.
Because I don't know if
April to November, man. You're already there.
I don't know if they set the World Series dates, because I would imagine if both league championship series sweep, they'd probably start the World Series shortly thereafter. So I guess you could possibly see it October, but I doubt. I mean, that'd be a surprise.
It's already just such a long duration for the sport. I don't know. If they're going to make changes, I certainly just thinking 5,000 foot view, I would not think elongating the duration of the sport is the way to go.
So yeah, I mean, of all the things you could change in baseball, and we're going to get into some of the other changes and ideas that they've incorporated, but this obviously would be a huge change for the game. Of all the things you could change, why don't we change, the length of the season a little bit? Why do teams we're going to change the playoff format, add teams, give teams bye, all this and that, all this weird, goofy stuff? Like, why don't you address the fact that you have northern teams playing in the fucking snow of March? Like, why does that make any sense?
Some of their scheduling is asinine to start the year.
And then you got teams playing in cold weather, and then you got them going to fucking California, and then you're going to go back to cold or just staying in cold. So now they're like, whether their team's built like on pitching, batting, like how's the cold weather influences them, while another team in, a dome down in Florida is just playing like it's any other day. Like, is that impacting? I don't know. Shorten the fucking season. It's not that big a deal. We got teams out here winning 54 games in a season, playing relevant games against potential, wild card or division winners in the 158th game of the year when they've won 50 games and gave up 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why don't we shorten the season and find ways to make it more interesting throughout the whole season? Shorten it, give a couple extra days off throughout the year, and then try to maybe, if you want to add a couple teams in the playoffs or something like that, then maybe it would make more sense. Like, if you shorten the season, therefore one would assume you'd have less opportunity to kind of make runs and shit like that. Then maybe expanding the playoffs to more teams could make sense. I don't know. But just doing their format of giving a first round a bye week, or the first ranked team a bye, is not the move that should be being changed. Like, that's the opposite of what needs to happen.
Yeah. I think playoff expansion could be a good idea if they shrink their regular season so that they're still finishing, in more so in October, in my mind, should be their target. But if
you could almost expand it to 8 teams.
That's what I'm thinking. Just in that first round can be 3 or 5
series.
games, whatever, 3, and then go into your 5-game series, then 7, and it kind of adds, because there are close teams down the stretch. The wild card and some divisional chases are pretty tight, within a game or 2 at the end. Why not give those teams a shot and see what happens in the playoffs? So I get that. I think that aspect is cool.
Yeah, and you could
just
incorporate ways like, let's say it's 3-game series. You win the division, you get a 3 home game series.
Sure.
All 3 games at home. There's your playoff series to advance the next round. Like, that's advantageous to win your division and advantageous to have the higher seed. And you're
more
adding
dollars too.
More money, more opportunities for teams to get into the playoffs and try to push and make a run. A lot of different opportunities, but then at the same token, like, you look at the NBA, but the NBA is so much different. Like, you have almost too many teams making the playoffs. It's almost too easy to get an 8 seed in the NBA that just gets fucking slaughtered by the number 1 seed. I think you'd see a lot less slaughterings, but that would be a lot more intriguing and be worth a conversation and make you think like, okay, maybe that could work if they shorten the season and did that rather than leave it how it is, add a couple teams and give a bye week to the first standings team.
I've mentioned this before when we've discussed MLB and its popularity and improvements they can make. Their grand finale, the playoffs, and then the big one, the World Series, is occurring in the heart of football season, man. Like, late October, dude, that's when you're getting into some big college football games on Saturdays. That's when you're really starting to figure out which NFL teams are for real and whatnot. Like, they need to condense that down. I think that overlap of being concurrent with the NFL.
There's really no avoiding that. I mean, the NFL season starts, first week of September?
Yeah, it starts early. I get that, but you'd have the hype of the football season starting maybe during the playoffs if you condensed it. But I can't help but think, man, right in the heart
week
of
6
football
of
season,
NFL season, and you're playing in the World Series, like, that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it's just
going back to this 8 though. I don't know. 8 doesn't make a whole lot of sense now. Look, so there's obviously 5 teams make the playoffs right now with the one wild card game. This would have left this past season in the American League. Boston, the Indians, and the 8 seed would have been a 78 and 84 Texas Rangers team to face off against the Houston Astros in the first round. Do we really want to see teams below 500 make playoffs? Same, like I said, goes back to the same conversation. We're looking at teams in the NBA doing the exact same thing, but like I said, it's definitely worth more of a conversation than what they're talking about right now. And that's kind of a good point you make about trying to advance the entertainment value and factor of the MLB. I mean, you're competing with the beginning of we're competing with the end of the NBA season, and then the beginning of your year, and then the end of your year is abutting with the beginning of the NFL. Like, how do you find ways to make it just generally more interesting? I don't know. I don't think the playoffs would ever get, like, how much more interesting would you make the playoffs by doing anything that we've even suggested, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair
is
question.
What it is.
Who
it's
knows?
Going to go up against the NFL regardless. But I still think the point should be shortening the season makes a whole lot of sense. 162 games. If you're starting the MLB right now, there's no way you have a 162 game season. Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't create as much like urgency. Like the NFL and college football, it's hard to compare sports, I understand, but with their format, you got, like, every game is a must-win game. Like, you cannot slip up. The margin for error is not that large. Where in baseball, you and I just watching a game in, June or whatever, like, yeah, you got to rack up wins, but you're not watching with the intensity that you would with some football games.
But it does compare, like, kind of going back to the comparison with the NBA, like, there's lulls in the NBA season, right now, for instance, where obviously every game matters.
They got a long season too.
But you got a long season, and, the teams that are going to actually compete for the championship, we all know who those teams are, and no matter really what, as long as they get into the playoffs, they're going to be a top 4 seed, and it's not going to matter until, the championship rounds.
Mm-hmm.
So just shorten the MLB season. Like I said, then you'll have, well, I guess you would still have, shitty-ass teams playing relevant games later, but if you expanded the playoff teams, those games would matter less, I guess. But the playoffs would mean just as much, and just the overall game-to-game one would assume would be, if you lopped off 30 games in the season, that just makes every game that much percentage more important. I don't know.
It might be, no matter what they do, baseball is just is what it is. It's more of a regional type of sport. Like the Cleveland Indians are not going to generate national intrigue like ever unless they have this extremely intriguing player, I guess, that has a personality. But dude, Mike Trout is the best player in the game by far.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's market driven too. Like,
yeah, it's like I don't really hear from Mike Trout the whole season. I don't hear anything about him.
I mean, that's the thing too. Like, they're playing on the West Coast, so their games start at 10 o'clock on the Eastern Coast. Like, who is staying up till 1 a.m. to watch Mike Trout? Like, not very often am I doing that. You know, the games are late as fuck from the West Coast. So you got your best player in baseball barely getting seen because half the country is asleep. Right. Like, it's just a flawed.
Whereas, would you be more inclined to tune in to like a big Thursday night football game, even though it starts at 8:30 or something like that during the work week, which I get is a little earlier than West Coast. But,
oh, yeah, much earlier, really.
But
a couple hours.
Even NBA, if there's a late, big NBA game.
I ain't staying up till 10 to watch, the Clippers play the Kings. Like,
what if it's your own team?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Not my own team right now because the Cavs are booty, but
they're poop.
If it's, when we had LeBron, I'd stay up and watch them play the Warriors, but they would never market that game probably for 10 p.m. Eastern.
You wouldn't think so.
I don't know. They just got a lot of problems that they need to kind of figure out. The popularity of the game, I feel like, is probably declining a lot. The marketability of what people are able to see has declined a lot. The MLB is not really doing it. I mean, we're talking about all these changes, and there's some rules changes, and we can jump into those a little bit. All these different changes, and none of them seem to be geared towards making the game more overall popular and marketable to the general fan who might be interested. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Like Trevor Bauer made a good point on Twitter the other day where he talked about there's an organization that basically owns the rights to all major league content. So you can't even post a highlight or clip from an MLB game on Twitter because it'll get taken down because you don't have the rights. Whereas you can go on, he was saying, you can go on and watch NBA highlights all day long because the NBA doesn't give a fuck and they want to market and want to promote that kind of stuff. Where the MLB, you can't even really go on Twitter and find a lot of the highlights and the big plays and things like that because they're trying to gain revenue off of that instead of popularize the game. So you're losing a lot of marketability, you're losing a lot of fans and potential fans who may become more interested because they see it on a regular basis. So all these different changes, and none of them seem to be geared towards making the game more popular to more people. And that's a problem.
Yeah, actually, I've got Trevor Bauer's Twitter page pulled up here because this random lawyer was in his mentions, kind of replying to the tweets you were referring to. Rachel Luba is basically saying, like, Rob Manfred may not be as dumb as people are thinking. After they heard his postseason proposal, he's a skilled negotiator and has a strategy. Trevor Bauer basically saying, yeah, fair point. He agrees with that. But then he says, my issue is more with the effort to change the game itself. The product is great. The packaging is terrible. Yeah. Policy, not rule. Changes are needed. So it's kind of, the
players,
the game itself is great.
The players are better than they've ever been. The pitchers are better than they've ever been. They're hitting home runs more rates and longer than they ever have before. The defensive plays have never been seen before. Yet nobody's really seeing it all that much. Why is that? I think because their efforts to market the game are not where they need to be. It's not like the NFL and the NBA. Obviously, the two major sports that most people in America pay attention to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You see advertisements for big NBA matchups where there are superstars involved on both teams, especially for weekend games. Obviously, the NFL just never stops, man. They market the draft like year round. I mean, they're
and like
just
you said, they only play 16 games for the playoffs, so every single game matters. They're every weekend. Plus, now we got Mondays and Thursdays, only one game apiece, so it's like a regular schedule. Every game is that critical and pivotal.
They're constantly in the news, though, even in the off season, like in the spring. I don't know. You still hear about the star athletes and kind of what they're doing and whatnot. I just don't get the same thing with the MLB, really. They're not always in the news. I don't know. It's
like
interesting.
OBJ can't go to the grocery store to get some milk without somebody on Twitter saying, OBJ wore slippers to the fucking mall today.
Right.
But who hears anything about what Mike Trout's doing in the offseason or Lindor's doing in the offseason? That's a good
Baker
point.
Mayfield does something stupid or smart or whatever. He's
everywhere,
all over. I mean,
he poses a picture with Saquon Barkley, and he's all over the news about how he's not fit enough and blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
it dominates a news cycle for 5 days. I don't know the last time I heard any news about Mike Trout.
None.
Who's the biggest?
You don't hear about him.
Who's the biggest? Superstar in baseball of our, I don't know, last decade, I guess. Since maybe Bonds and obviously like all the crazy back in the 90s kind of.
I think another factor with that is the impact level a single player can have on a baseball team is just not close to the same that a single stud can have on an NBA team or a football team.
Yeah, NBA is a little different.
If
NFL
you're a quarterback, more so.
Quarterback is definitely
if you touch the ball. Running back, I mean, receivers can have huge impacts on the game, not nearly as much as QB,
I don't know.
obviously.
I mean, defensive linemen are stars in the NFL, and popularity wise, you got corners and safeties who are everywhere, linebackers who are everywhere. Luke Kuechly shocks the world when he retires.
Yeah, that's true.
So
no, that's a good counter argument.
There's a lot there, and I don't think there's plenty of people who can have that same impact in that way in baseball as Lindor's going to bat 4 or 5 times a game and maybe make one awesome play and a couple routine, but he's still impacting the game, and you're still going out to see him, and he's still the superstar on the field.
Yeah, no, I think regionally, those star players have a ton of marginal revenue. Like, you're going to watch them. That's where your attention is at. My point was, I'm wondering if, Mike Trout, best player in baseball, should probably get MVP every single year, but it's not the same as, it's just like probably not the same impact as like even Russell Westbrook when he won MVP. Like, him going off every game was a huge, huge reason why they won as many games as they did.
Look at Dame Lillard, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude is going on. But I mean, I think just kind of like off the top of my head, kind of rationalize it. Like, okay, let's say, Myles Garrett is a superstar. He might make 2 sacks in a game, have a great, amazing game. 2 sacks, 1 tackle. Stats, he made, 3 impactful plays. And obviously he's a star of the game, all that kind of stuff. However, when he's not making plays, there's however many other guys on the field who are. A quarterback's touching the ball every single time, which is the face of the team. A running back's getting the ball. A wide receiver's getting the ball. They're throwing it at the cornerback. So there's some impactful player. Like, who wants to see some 8th man in the bullpen face off against some pinch hitting guy who bats 8 times a game or 8 times a month? Like, that's not exciting. Every pitch matters in the MLB, of course. But it's a lot less interesting until those superstars get impactful in the game. Like, while Mike Trout's not getting the ball hit to him and making great plays or not at bat, somebody else is, but that somebody else is a lot of times irrelevant and striking out. And, your team average is 300. So you get 6 hits a game, you score 2 runs, and you win 2-1. Like, how much market value did you just provide? Unless it's like, Garrett Cole pitching against, Justin Verlander for the first time of the season or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. That could be part of it too. Like, there's always somebody, one ball, one handoff, one catch, one throw away. There's always that superstar who's right there in the action at every single moment of an NFL game, where most of the time that's not the case. Like, how many balls are getting hit to Mike Trout in a game? 6.
That's right.
He's batting 4 times and maybe gets 6 balls hit his way.
Right.
So how many minutes of the entire 3-hour game is he actually involved in?
Right. And if you keep the camera on him when he's not doing anything the whole time to try and talk him up, it's just like, all right, we've heard enough. It gets a little old. Yeah, I don't know, man. It just kind of seems to me that MLB is what it is, just kind of a regional, unless you're like the Astros, they obviously, with how good they've been, they're more of a national brand right now.
some of those big
Boston
markets,
and New York,
Yankee,
they'll always be
the
you know, have
Dodgers
their
and the
stamp
Angels and
everywhere.
everything all have the teams with the money.
Right.
The Cubs, teams with the money, put the best players on the team, market more and have more regional access than any other team, which is just like the NFL. Who the fuck's watching the Dolphins games?
No.
You know what I mean? But
yeah, no one.
I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. They should do something. Just getting more eyeballs onto the sport needs to be the main goal. Like, get more content in front of people's face. Any way possible.
Absolutely.
In any way possible. And like I said, all these different changes the MLB is implementing, and none of them are to, you know, grow the game. Speeding up the game is the next newest thing, you know. All the things we've changed. You don't intentionally walk batters anymore. You just tell them to go to first. Okay. Who fucking cares? That's irrelevant.
Yeah.
We're focused on that. We're focused on what? The pitch clock that you have between batters and all that kind of stuff, and between pitches before you have to make your next pitch. They have a fucking little shot clock in the center field wall now that the umpires can look at, and between innings and shit like that. Like, these are the changes that we're actually focusing on. We're focusing on this new 3 batters pitchers rule, where a pitcher has to face 3 batters minimum unless they come in the middle of an inning and end that inning. Then they don't have to come back out. Otherwise, they have to face 3 batters. Like, these are the changes that we're trying to make in the game so we can shave off maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes of an entire 3-hour game. But we're not helping market the players or finding new innovative ways to get more fans, you know, access to seeing what's going on with the superstar best players.
What I'm thinking about, I can't decide if it was my age or if things were truly different. But you and I are both in our upper 20s, nearing 30, bro.
Oh shit!
And
that's true.
I feel like growing up in, you know, the decade of 2000 to about 2010, even late 90s, it seemed like you knew about every single superstar in baseball. And
it's tough. Is that because we were fans, or was that because they were? I don't know.
I don't know.
I was too young to kind of realize.
That's what I'm saying.
And you got to think there was no Browns for however many years when we were kids, from 94 to 90 until 99. That window, there was no football in town.
Not even the.
And then when they
not
did,
just
they
the
were
Indian.
trash.
I don't know if it was video games too. Like, I used to play
Yeah, that's
baseball
also
video
true.
games all the time.
I just
You know
mean
all the
like in
players.
general, you know all the players around the league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I don't know. The All-Star games were awesome. Again, I don't know if that was my age or the era. I mean, growing up, dude, there were a lot of stud. We were in a time where there were a lot of players playing either in their prime or slightly just past it that people knew, like, this dude is going to be a Hall of Famer. Like, I mean, think of the big names we had. Dudes hitting over 500 and 600 home runs when we were growing up. Ken Griffey, Barry Bonds, Jim Thome, you know, hometown player for us following the Indians. So I just can't tell if it was better marketed there or if it was our age or what kind of influences there were to think.
Yeah, and it could just be our personal preferences. We were both big baseball fans. We both played baseball growing up as kids and all that, so we were more into the sport. Like, maybe that attracted us more, or maybe it just was more widely, you know, viewed and paid attention to, and the ratings were better and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Like, it'd be interesting to talk to somebody who was around, obviously, in both eras and see, like, what their thoughts are on how the game is presented. I mean, that's the thing, too. Like, you have more opportunities now than ever before. With the internet access that people have, the availability of shit like Twitter, where you can put 2-minute clips on there, 20-second clips on there, see whatever you want to see. TV, obviously SportsCenter was around, but there's more access to games now than ever before, and more, you know, networks highlighting and talking about sports than ever before. Why does it seem like baseball is getting passed up when it's more accessible than ever before?
Yeah.
A lot of it, I think, is the fact that they're not presenting it enough. And going back to Bauer's point, like, I think that is very influential in what's going on in the whole thing. But I mean, the players are still getting paid more than they've ever been paid, so somebody's paying attention. Somebody's generating revenue on these.
I wish we could see accurate numbers. Like, I guess it seems like they're still doing well as a league, dollar-wise. I would think so.
Oh yeah, it gotta be, of course. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on this pitcher's rule? Speaking of,
I don't know. I guess I'm kind of neutral on it. Like, I'm open to giving it a chance before forming
I
too
think it's
strong
dumb,
of an opinion. But
how influential is it really going to be? It kind of reminds, like I said, of the intentional walk rule. Like everyone's like, "Oh, you're changing the game," blah blah blah. Like, who fucking really cares?
yeah,
If you have to just tell a guy go to first, or who cares?
I
if
like that rule. Who cares?
Yeah,
if you're
who
gonna
cares?
walk in, let's get it
Fuck
over
it,
with.
yeah.
Send him to first base. Let's
Get your
go.
ass down there. Get this thing going. Same thing with the pitchers. Like, it's just going to change the strategy of the game. Like, a couple years from now, it's going to be a common thing. No one's even going to really remember what it was like back in the day where you'd have 4 pitchers pitching 1 inning in a row. Batter, new pitcher every single time. Like, does it matter? Does it really impact the game as a whole? No, it doesn't. So I'm fine with some of these goofy, weird, small changes. They're irrelevant, though. Like, is it really going to have any influence on the big picture of the game one way or the other, whether you do something? Like, are they just doing it just to do it? Like, how many minutes? They're talking about speeding up the pace of play and all that kind of stuff. Like, how much is that really going to change?
Yeah, it's tough to say.
The pitchers thing, there are instances, obviously, where, I mean, like I said, 4 batters in a row face a different pitcher. Like, that's a little excessive. That really slows shit down.
Yeah.
How long do you think it takes to change a pitcher? 2.5, 3 minutes? You do that 4 times in a row, plus the pitches. Like, you're going on a 35-minute inning when you see 4 batters bat. Like that, I guess that's a little excessive.
I see that.
And that's fine to mix things up and change a little bit. But there's just so many other things that could have a bigger impact, like shortening the season, I think would be fine if they did it the right way. It's more or less the major one. Like, we shouldn't be playing baseball in the snow. You know what I mean? We don't need 162 games.
No, I agree with your point. Like, the content is just not there. Like, we're in a group chat where our buddies and I, and us exchange highlights and just all sorts of sports related stuff. If there's an awesome catch, from the weekend or something like that, or an awesome dunk or an insane, LeBron play or something like that, you best believe that's making the group chat in the morning. Like, we're seeing highlights of that. I don't know that we do that all that much with baseball.
Yeah, I don't
during
think,
baseball season,
like, I guess I didn't really realize until, like, Bauer came out saying all this stuff, like, how little highlights and things like that are actually on Twitter. I guess I never really thought about it. And now that he mentioned it, now, like you said, like, how, maybe I guess that does make sense. Like, oh, well, I guess I haven't really been seeing a lot of baseball stuff on Twitter.
It's like, if you I don't know, you just don't see the amazing plays that occurs. I mean, I used to
every night there's a whole several minute highlight reel of all the games that you can join together.
Dude, SportsCenter top 10 growing up with Stuart Scott. I couldn't wait to see all the baseball plays. Yeah. Like, I only wanted baseball plays in the summer. Some people hated that. It's a preference thing, I think, with baseball too. But yeah, I don't know. I love that. I loved watching the Web Gems on, what was that, MLB Tonight? Mm-hmm. Was that show? Yeah, I don't know. I used to love that shit. I used to eat it up. Like, I couldn't get enough awesome baseball highlights. And now it just kind of seems like I'm still watching football highlights. Like, I'll go out of my way to look up highlights. Same with the NBA.
Yeah, and another thing
that I do that with MLB.
Yeah, right, exactly. And maybe, like, it's just more an accessibility thing that we haven't really noticed. Like, I guess me personally, like, I don't know that I've noticed the lack of that type of content, because I'm always looking for it also anyways, just because I'm a fan and I want to see what goes on, and I have a whatever MLB at bat subscription where I can watch basically a condensed game of every game that's played in the MLB the next day. Like, so I see everything. But that's me because I see that. But on Twitter, I don't know that I see that kind of stuff. On YouTube, I don't know that I see that kind of stuff. And that's where shit's getting shared, and new audiences that otherwise wouldn't really see it get exposed to the game.
Right.
But another thing that I would have to kind of look into, I don't really know if how much more they could do this or what, but they could also, like, how many games do you play in division? It's a lot. Why don't you can condense that and spread some of these bigger markets with some of the top tier talent around the nation. Like, how many times do certain teams come to Jacobs Field or Progressive Field in Cleveland? Like, if there's a star in the National League on the West Coast, how many times are you ever going to see him? How many times are you going to see the Rockies and Charlie Blackmon and all them dudes
exactly
come to Cleveland?
I used to
Why?
like
Let's shorten the games you play in division and expand to different markets, bring new markets around where they otherwise
Absolutely.
rarely ever are.
I think that's a great idea. I grew up.
And then you could market the piss out of that. Look who's coming to town.
Right.
First time, or only time of the year you get to see, Mike Trout play against the Blue Jays or whatever.
Right. I grew up really liking John Smoltz, and Dad and I found out that Indians play the Braves at the Jake. We found out John Smoltz was starting one game. We were like, all
That's
right,
awesome.
we got to go. I want to go see John Smoltz pitch in person, and we got to, and it was awesome.
When was the last time the Braves went to Cleveland, I bet?
Man, I
How
can't
many
remember.
times in your lifetime have
Yeah,
you even had an opportunity to see a Braves pitch?
Not many.
pitcher,
So that's why
whoever it is.
when we found out they were coming, I also liked Chipper Jones growing up and all that. So as soon as we found out the Braves were coming into town, we were like, oh yeah, we definitely got to go to that game.
Yeah, they should do like those kind of changes are what I'm talking about. Like spread out who goes around, maybe shorten the season to make things a little bit more
Shorten the
impactful.
season so you
like,
can
who's
give
gonna
more
go?
breaks during the week.
Yeah.
And concentrate the big. They need to have fluid scheduling, I think. Like not schedule. If they could manage it, which I think they can, they got money and logistics for it, but maybe have a fluid schedule to where you only schedule out to the All-Star break. And then as you get a quarter out from the All-Star break, schedule the back end to make sure you're spreading markets out or getting quality matchups to attract.
Yeah, I don't even know if you really need to do that. Or maybe like a little bit like a flex, almost like the MLB flex game.
I wish the NFL would flex more games.
Yeah.
Like some of the Thursday night games are.
But those are
garbage.
scheduled. It's just who play, like what time you play. That's the flex. So
Yeah.
you can change Sunday Night Baseball that's scheduled out 3 months in advance and put a different team on other than
Yeah, you
the
can do
Yankees
that.
or the Red Sox. Like there's
Yeah.
different things. Like that is another great idea. Like finding
Absolutely.
more opportunities to put different teams in the national spotlight and different players in the national spotlight. So there's those kind of opportunities I think are where the MLB should be focusing their changes rather than spending time on should we implement this goofy playoff change rule or the 3 pitchers rule, batters rule, or whatever other. Nope, we were allowed one more roster spot up from 25 to 26, but it's not allowed to be a pitcher. Like who fucking cares? How much impact is that going to have? None.
Yeah, that was a dumb.
None.
I don't understand that rule.
Like
That
it's
was
irrelevant. There's so many different things you could be focusing on that change the game for the better and for the better long term, and they're not focused on the right things, I think.
Yeah, I
unfortunate.
agree. A lot of good points in there. I'd like to do a case study on if video games are affecting it as well.
Yeah, that
Because,
would be interesting.
dude, there are no quality baseball games being produced anymore.
I mean, MLB
Well,
the
is
show.
the show still coming out on
Oh yeah,
PlayStation?
it's legit and it's awesome, but only on PlayStation.
Only on PlayStation.
Until
There
I
you
think
go.
next year is finally coming to all the other platforms.
Gotcha. But I
But,
think
like, how
EA
many years?
Sports stopped
Yeah.
producing baseball games. I think 2K did. I think the last 2K baseball game we had was like 2013, maybe. Something like that.
But I don't know how much that, like the people who care enough to play a baseball game care enough to watch baseball and care about baseball. There's so much more playable video game content out there that some people are going to find shit to play regardless.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like more, I mean, there's definitely the player recognition from young fans is definitely, I feel like, has to be impacted. Like
Absolutely.
How many other
There's
guys?
no doubt.
We were talking earlier. We knew everybody. How much of that was because we're playing Ken Griffey Jr. Let's play Major League Baseball.
Ken Griffey, Triple Play
You know?
Baseball, MVP Baseball, 05 with Manny Ramirez, the GOAT.
Yeah. But like Madden, how many people? How much popularity of players around the NFL are because so many kids play Madden?
It's got to be high.
Everybody
2K,
knows Pat Mahomes
NBA.
and all these other guys more so because they play Madden all the time.
Absolutely, man.
So
there's
that's more
there's
like
no
the-
question about it.
Yeah, maybe not expanding more fans, but like getting the fans
Exposure.
more exposed to the entirety of the league, which helps in every aspect. But I definitely think spreading out the teams and who plays where and when and shortening the divisions and all that kind of stuff could go a lot longer way to changing and getting more people attracted to the game than a pitch clock between batters. Like
Yeah, agree. The
crazy.
gray hairs will bitch about shrinking the season because it won't be they won't be able to compare stats to old Babe Ruth back in the day anymore.
Hey, well, that can suck my cock. But I mean, you'll never see it because the owners are going to see that as lost opportunities for revenue.
Oh,
And how are you going to convince MLB owners to lose out on, 15, 20 home games or whatever the case may be. Good luck with that.
Yeah, if the money's coming in, which we assume
By
is
all
good,
accounts, it is, yeah.
we
How many
have
teams
no
are
idea.
losing money because they're playing too many games? I would imagine none.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
They just cut payroll and let their best player in 20 years walk to
cut
the Yankees
payroll,
next year.
build again, and then in 5 years they're back
Yeah.
up and moving.
So I don't know, man. Something's got to be done in the right way, and they're not focused on the right things, in my opinion.
I agree. And Manfred clearly seems like he wants to make changes and might be the type that plans on doing it no matter what. Like, he just wants to make change for change. And
yeah, change is fine. Let's make the right changes.
yeah, you got to make the right ones. So
that actually expand the exposure of the game. How many people are like, the game's too long. If only it was 10 minutes shorter, I'll pay more attention. Like, come on.
I'm for improvements there, but like you said, that's
if you're
not really
concerned and there's statistics that show the games are too long, then cut it to 7 innings. Like, do something drastic like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be that person.
They're not really getting into the meat and potatoes here. They're just kind of
but
scratching
why?
away.
I don't know that they really care because, like you said, the owners are making money, which means the league's making money hand over fist more than they ever have. So why make drastic changes when to them the money that's coming in is still greener than green? So, and they'll be dead by the time the league fizzles out because of lack of popularity anyway. So what do they care?
Right.
I don't know.
So we'll see what happens. I think the New York Post broke the playoff expansion news first. We'll see if anything more comes out about the MLB. Pitchers and catchers reported this week.
Yes, sir.
Spring training is right around the corner for, the full rosters. So baseball's getting underway. Kind of crazy that it's
I'm excited.
Started already.
I can't wait to see the Indians field empty for the first 4 weeks of the season because it's fucking 38 degrees.
I know. Opening day will be nice though.
That'll be packed when it's probably snowing, and then
that's the one
for
I will credit MLB. Opening day is like
it's a huge ordeal.
Man. Yeah, I mean
it is.
It's awesome.
It is. Games are on all day. Everything's pumped up. Everything's publicized like crazy. All this kind of stuff, and then they just let it.
It just like
that
dies.
Momentum built like
next day.
Yeah, the momentum they built up just fizzles out in a day.
Yeah, it's like, oh, all right, we'll see you in another 100 games or so.
See you in 6
Check
months.
Back in.
Yep.
So we're gonna move on to this new league coming up. The XFL got underway last weekend, and we don't have to spend a shit ton of time on it now since it just started. But what are your initial thoughts on the XFL and the product?
So, all right. So obviously, the XFL took Twitter over last weekend. Everybody's talking about how great it was, how entertaining it was, and that's all true. I think that's all well and fine. I don't know that I'm too surprised that it got as much attention as it did. Like, unless the quality of play was so atrocious that, people like everybody in the was it AAF or whatever they called it from last year, like people were pumped about that coming in that first weekend too. And then we saw the real true quality of the sport and it was trashed.
Yeah.
But overall, I think it's cool. If it's maintained financially and has longevity to kind of build within the cities, that'd be cool. I'd like to see, cities that don't otherwise have a lot of major sports. That could be an interesting way to incorporate more fandom. But expanding the league beyond, 8 teams, I think would be challenging to find a talent to disperse that much. But the talent that we saw, like the quality was entertaining. It was fun. At least the first day had some points scored, some big plays made. Some of the rule changes that we'll get into, obviously, were pretty interesting. But in general, I'll watch it. I'll keep watching it. It's fun.
It's more football.
I like the engagement that they have with, hearing the coaches on the sideline call plays, hearing the refs review plays in live time and hear what they have to say while reviewing plays, hearing the conversations to the quarterback while he's under, behind the center ready to take the snap. Like, that was cool access that you really never would see before. And then some of the rule changes, like with the kickoff, that we'll get into. But yeah, I was cool with it. It was fun. It was entertaining. I'll keep watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I think what really helped was the production value of it. I
Yeah.
think ESPN definitely aired games. Was the other one Fox? Did Fox have some games?
I'm not sure. I know. I'm trying to remember that. I guess just ESPN is what I saw. I didn't see all 4 of the games. I was at a concert over the weekend. Saw the Lumineers at the Q,
Nice.
which was incredible. I didn't realize
it was on Fox too.
So
Sorry.
The other day, this concert was on Saturday, Friday. I'm talking to my buddy at work, and we both we're bullshitting. You know, what are you doing this weekend? And I found out, we're both going to the concert. He's like, oh, where are your seats at? I had no fucking clue. Like, I was like, I don't know, up top probably somewhere. I bought these tickets like 6 months ago, right when they went on sale or whatever it was. Dude, we were like 6th row from the stage. Incredible seats.
Nice.
It was sweet.
That's awesome.
I'm ready for like nosebleeds. And I'm like following the signs, and this guy's like, oh, can I help you? And I show him his tickets. Like, oh, you're right down this way. And he walks down the side. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Are we in the wrong spot or something? Because this doesn't make sense. Literally, we're in row 6. There's 3 rows ahead of us, 5, 4, and 3. And then 2 and 1 didn't even exist. So it's basically the stage right in front of us. So it was pretty sweet. The concert was incredible too. But that's neither here nor there. That's what I did this week. And that's why I missed some of the old XFL. But yeah, having it on ESPN, having it marketed like it was. You saw commercials. You saw constant, Twitter stuff about the XFL coming up. Everybody was talking about it. The fact that they went the week immediately after the Super Bowl, I think, was a big deal.
Yes.
So they did a lot of the marketing, and obviously Vince McMahon, the owner of the league, has run the WWE the WWF and now the WWE for the last 2-3 decades. So when you talk about marketing, he's about as good as a marketing, sports-related person in the world. So he understands how to get eyeballs on product. So I think that was all done well.
Yeah. No, I agree. So getting into the weeds a little bit more here, the stuff I liked that the NFL can't use everything that the XFL is going to use. But I think the NFL could definitely learn a little bit from what the XFL did, even after just week 1. I like the official transparency. The NFL
awesome.
will never do that, I don't think, because we were talking before we started recording. Then they can't conspiracy theory.
How is Alberto Riveron going to be reviewing these pass interference calls all season and get away with the atrocious calls and overcalls that he consistently rejected, failed? He refused to overturn how many blatant pass interference or the opposite.
Yeah.
How is he going to be able to
it gives
talk
up
his way?
Any sort of control that the league
if you have an
could
agenda to stop coaches from throwing the red flag against pass interference by never overturning the call on the field, you're not going to be able to talk your way out of that if everybody can hear what you're talking about.
Right.
So they'll never do that, I think.
I know the fans.
Thought it was awesome.
I know the fans would love it.
Oh, they loved it in the XFL.
So the other thing I liked is the kickoff.
That was very interesting. The first time I saw, because I knew there was a different kickoff rule, but the first time I saw it the other day, I'm like, what the fuck is this? So they line up on the 35 opposite the 50, while the kicker is at the other 35 kicking off. And each team is 5 yards apart. Nobody's allowed to move over their 5-yard line until the returner catches the ball. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, from the X's and O's standpoint, think of the stuff you could try to scheme on your return, like,
right,
and trying to defend that once, you can actually have more elaborate blocking schemes, perhaps. I don't know. I was intrigued by that. The NFL has been on safety, on
they're
kickoffs.
talking about potentially just scrapping it out of the game entirely.
No, I think this
was a great solution.
This is a perfect solution, man. I'm all for it. I think the NFL should definitely adopt this and start it immediately. I was really intrigued by that setup.
Yeah, I like that. Some of the other rules, like I think their play clock was 25 seconds. The ball stops every single play until it gets marked by the official. Stuff like that was supposed to generate more fluidity and speed up the game and make more, quicker action, I guess. I don't think that really turned into any more scoring. That's kind of the question too, though. So obviously, great first weekend. Everybody loved it, etc. Do you think the talent and, based on what we saw this past weekend, will be sustainably quality to the point where the league doesn't crumble because of shitty players on the field?
Yeah, so
that's the biggest question.
It's a huge question, and that's why we can go down many rabbit holes here with this topic. So the first one, I'm going to stick with relating it back to the NFL. If the NFL gets behind the XFL financially, what if players that are cut in the NFL have a landing spot now to go to the XFL? Or, what if players that come out of school maybe a little earlier than what they should and go undrafted or something like that? What if they go to the XFL and build up their bodies? Maybe, if the XFL can get decent coaches like a Bob Stoops,
right,
maybe get developed properly and then get picked up by an NFL team on their 53 man, or at least get asked to tryouts and camp to make the team.
Yeah.
So I just wonder if it's that actually paid minor league.
Yeah, like a fallback for guys on the cusp.
Yeah.
Who basically give guys on the cusp a second chance at their NFL dreams. Like whether a guy comes out of college, gets an injury that he loses his first season. A lot of times guys end up just having to retire when that happens. Like you missed an entire first year of your season, especially if you're coming out as a senior, sometimes fifth year senior. You can't afford to just miss an entire season. Like you're 25, 26 years old.
Right.
Poof, your first supposed to be NFL experience is just gone because of injury. Having an XFL could be a great opportunity to fall back and be able to hold your dream. I think that is going to still be the case. But I think it's going to be less enticing unless, like you said, the NFL gets financially involved, and that would require a lot of longevity and sustainable quality production and quality ratings on the TV ratings, people going to games, fandom growing and continuously generating before the NFL will even consider getting financially involved. Like if the NFL can find ways to profit off of it, then of course they would be interested in, basically taking over the league or somehow joining forces with Vince McMahon and making it into like a second league for guys who are on the cusp. And I think that would be really cool. I don't know if there's enough financial incentive for owners to do that. And I don't know if there's going to be enough backing by fans to make it profitable enough for it even to survive at all.
Yeah. And I don't know how many I don't know that you could add any more teams than what they have. It's gotta be a small number. A setup will never work, for every single NFL franchise to have their own kind of minor league team, because you got the NCAA. That's the
But
farm
I mean,
system.
you could have the 32 teams market share,
the
entire league, almost have an XFL post NCAA draft, or they could just be lumped into the NCAA draft for guys who are like that. There's a lot of different ways. I mean, because you got practice squad now. What if practice squad, there was practice squad 2, which was, playing in XFL games. But it also required the players to be getting paid. I don't know what the players are getting paid to play in the XFL right now. I'd assume it's not very much. And people think like, a minor league for the NFL. Like, they don't give a fuck about that. They got college. But like I said, if they can find ways to profit off of it, that could help sustain the league. I don't think it's going to be more of a minor league like you're saying, like the Browns minor league team is in
never
Canton.
get to that.
Like there's not enough widespread talent to make that worthwhile. It's almost like the G League. Like who gives a fuck about the G League?
Yeah,
and there's only how many players in the NBA?
Right. I mean, there's only
15 per
only
team.
2 rounds in a draft.
There's 15 players per team in the NFL. There's 53-man rosters plus practice squad guys for 32 teams or whatever. So there's just not enough players to. I think 8 is probably a sweet spot at the moment. I don't know realistically how you can even expand on that, but the NFL could get involved if they can find ways to profit off of it. And I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, no, it would be
more
cool.
football
and
is always
if they can market it to cities that don't have an NFL squad.
That'd be awesome.
Like I'm thinking like cities that have, and I can't name a bunch, so it'd be a little more regional for getting ticket sales, but thinking of cities that have like a really good, traditionally good minor league baseball team, like the Toledo Mud Hens were always actually popular.
Yeah.
For being a minor league team, they were always popular. Or like a city like Columbus. I know they have Ohio State, but professionally,
Columbus Clippers.
they have a hockey team and who's the other pro? Oh, Crew, the Columbus Crew.
Right.
So like, it's actually popular there for a professional sport. Throw in an XFL team, all of a sudden they might grow a little bit in popularity.
Yeah, and the more I think about this, the whole like talent in the league, like if it was actually sustainable to the point, like why wouldn't the NFL gotten some type of involvement with the Canadian League players? Like, you got a lot of guys in the Canadian League. Now you got the XFL. Like, if there was enough talent already before the XFL, you would probably have seen something in addition other than just the Canada League.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to see a lot of back and forth.
Yeah.
But it would be that opportunity, for a certain amount of people. Dude, what if Cardale Jones all of a sudden shows that he's somewhat competent?
Yeah,
NFL needs backup QBs all the time.
Anybody who thinks Cardale Jones, that's a good example, can't be a third string QB right now in the NFL is fooling themselves. Of course he could.
Yeah.
You think he can't make a roster right now? Of course he could. But if he goes out, plays in the XFL, balls the fuck out, maybe he gets a chance to be the number one guy at a team that needs a QB, make it take a chance. Or, you can be the number two guy here. Up his value a little bit by playing in the XFL. Like,
yes.
He clearly made the decision to be a third string quarterback in the NFL and probably never really get a legit chance to ever make it, or go to the XFL, put your shit on display, improve, get great coaching from competent guys, play with other talent on a daily basis as the starter, and then potentially maybe that translates into more opportunity in the NFL.
Had the XFL been around, when he was finishing up at Ohio State, he would have been a perfect candidate to maybe think, I might not get drafted in the NFL. I really want to play professional football.
Yeah,
going to have to sign a piddly-ass contract, or I can go to this XFL team and get paid just a little bit more and maybe prove my worth.
That's the thing. It's got to be financially worthwhile for that individual.
Right.
Like, I don't know how much they're getting paid in the XFL, like I said, but if it's enough, if you can make NFL league minimum to play as a starter in the XFL, guys are going to do it.
Yeah.
A lot, and that would improve the content.
And if they keep ratings up, they're going to keep getting advertisements. And if ESPN and Fox want to continue to run with it, you kind of got a wall right now where basketball, there's little parity. You kind of already know who is going to make the playoffs, and NFL is over. So you mentioned, I think the timing is perfect. Being after the Super Bowl, let that kind of subside a little bit and then ramp it up, man.
That makes me think that could be a way that if it grows enough that the NFL gets involved in some capacity, like if the XFL can grow just enough where they're paying their starters NFL league minimum, you're going to see a lot of guys leave the NFL to come play as starters in the XFL. If you're losing your back end of your NFL roster, to the XFL, would that maybe the NFL would just say, all right, we're just going to raise our league minimum. And that would be more beneficial for some of those players and entice them to stick in the NFL. Or maybe they're like, okay, maybe we could see this more as an opportunity to kind of, get involved with the XFL. I don't know. It's an interesting topic to think about.
Yeah. No, I think it's extremely intriguing.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see what happens with this whole league in the next couple of weeks too.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously...
You get hype on opening day.
Right. What's going to happen
like
next 2-3 weeks now? Is it going to taper off? But yeah, I'm intrigued. I also have the thought of, would it be worth a guy leaving school early that knows he's ready for professional football to go get paid in the XFL and then go to the NFL?
The only point that obviously that's a talking point that people have brought up. The only point that makes sense to is you would have to assume that players in college don't already get paid, which we all know that happens. So, you're not going to see a lot of guys leave college to go play in the XFL when they're probably getting paid more and getting more incentives right now to stick in college than go to the league.
They'd be better off just dropping out.
Shaun Wade would have likely been a first-round DB coming out of Ohio State, and he came back for his senior season. He didn't do it for free. I assure you that.
No.
I assure you that.
Travis Etienne at Clemson.
Come on.
You
know what I mean? So that would, people who say, it could be a minor league and guys can leave college. You're still a college player playing against grown-ass professional athlete men.
Yeah.
Across from you. You're a 19-year-old playing against some dude who's 26 and a fucking pro athlete. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's part of it too. But also,
they're a little more developed.
You got to assume that you got to take out the equation and just ignore the fact that college players aren't already getting paid, which they are, and their families are already getting some type of incentives. So good luck.
The good ones are.
Yeah.
That would be
Right,
in this discussion.
exactly. The only
For
ones
sure.
who are relevant enough to go play in the XFL are already getting compensated
Yeah.
to stick around.
If you
And they're making the rules where you can pay players now. So
Yeah, if you think Chase Young was only getting $10K.
yeah.
Whew.
Come on.
So yeah, no, I agree. So speaking of that, I haven't heard anything new on this paying players. I thought they were supposed to have like official regulations by January last month
Well, hey,
of 2020.
it's a good
I haven't
teaser.
seen anything.
Good teaser for next week. Let's do a little bit of research and jump on that for next week, see where that's at.
Yeah, it'd be sweet.
Last I heard, obviously, we heard what was going on with the bills in California, and I think Florida was the other one. Shortly thereafter, when all that discussion went on, Anthony Gonzalez, who's now a state senator in Ohio, had talked about how he's getting involved with establishing legislation for nationwide ruling for this kind of stuff. But like you said, I haven't heard anything about it for several months, so that'll be a good teaser and good thing for us to do our little homework and report back on the podcast what's going on with that and what, if any, momentum has occurred over the last several months since we last heard all this kind of stuff jumping off several weeks ago, or months ago, I guess that was. But anyways, hopefully we will be, both of us, back on the podcast next week. I'll be down south in Dallas, Texas, but hopefully we'll find a moment of time and slice out an hour or so to get on the podcast somehow through Skype or whatever the case may be. We'll figure something out and try to get back at you next week. Got a new logo. Looks sweet. I'm excited for it. Gonna see a little bit of that. Hopefully post some stickers around town. Get some more people on the podcast. So anybody listening out there, spread the word. Tell people about what we got going on because it's fun and hopefully we're doing a decent job. So if you like it, spread the word. And until next week, Jeff, been a pleasure.
Good show, man.
Peace.